This video is brought to you by Game Maker, the free, fast, and easy to use. This video is brought to you by Lord Embermaze, an upcoming adventure RPG where each of your individual steps control the flow of time. Venture deep into this gorgeous pixel art underworld, exploring dungeons, fighting monsters, and trying not to end up on the business end of a spike trap. The strategic puzzle-like combat means that you'll need to take careful consideration of each and every step. It's like playing hopscotch if you were also being chased by giant killer bees. Luckily, these dungeons are filled with helpful artifacts to aid you in your journey, and don't worry, you don't have to return any of these to some dumb museum. I mean, I ride just one of the dinosaur skeletons, and they give me a lifetime ban. Idiots. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to the Steam page now to wishlist Lord Embermaze and play a free prologue today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Windbreakers podcast. I'm Yahtzee. I'm joined by Jay and Marty as always. And I hear somebody had a birthday this weekend.
Oh my god, it me. I'm the big 3-0. I'm a 30-year-old boy man now. Hey, check it out.
Happy birthday to you, etc.
Yeah, and the rest of it.
Thank you so much. Apparently I have a cake. Wait, I need to blow out my candle, okay. And beautiful.
There you go.
That's like
Thank
a
you
Kinect
for making
game.
the cake.
Honestly,
Eric.
that was better than most Kinect games.
Did you have a nice party to say goodbye to your 20s forever?
I didn't have a nice party because I'm in the States, so I don't really know anyone here. So I did what I usually do, which is just have great food, hang out with Jess, and play some great games. Get to play Indiana Jones on my birthday. What more could I ask for?
Well, on that subject, today's topic is games that kick off really well. Now, I feel like I've been over this a few times. I have an extra punctuation episode on why BioShock is the best opening of any game. But, Marty, you said you wanted to talk about this because of some recent examples you wanted to bring up.
Well, honestly, Indiana Jones is one of them. I'm not sure if it's a good opening, but it's an interesting opening, and how to, I feel like, onboarding in a game with a lot of mechanics is a part of the opening.
Yes, because it is literally the opening for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, right down to fucking Sapedo stabbing you in the back. But
Played
I
by
also
Alfred Molina, who would later play Dr. Octopus in Spider-Man 2.
He would, and the cool drug dealer in Boogie Nights who throws fireworks on the ground.
There you go.
But I also replayed recently. I'm replaying the Arkham games. I'm doing Arkham City now, and the Arkham Asylum intro is one that really sticks with me as not necessary. There's no one perfect way to do an intro, but I think Arkham Asylum is as good of that way of doing an intro as you can have, of kind of setting a tone and building the world out before stuff really kicks off with you taking the Joker to Arkham and sort of slowly walking him through the halls before everything goes awry.
You know what that is? That sequence is like the opening paragraph of an academic essay. And everyone knows the way you write an academic essay is you summarize your point as quickly as possible in the first paragraph, and then you spend the rest of the essay going through each individual point in detail.
Yeah.
So this is basically a setting of the tone. Hey, we've arrived at Arkham Asylum. Here's the Joker. Here's some Black Gate thugs.
Yeah.
Here's Killer Croc, etc.
Here's the corrupt warden.
It's so difficult though, right? Because the opening, the first time user experience, is, in my opinion, the most important part of any game. How you keep people, especially in a day and age where, rightfully so, you're able to refund games within the first 2 hours. Like, grabbing people in those hours is really important. And with these games that I think have done it really well, like I agree with Arkham Asylum or Indiana Jones, they come from IPs where we are very familiar with the characters already. So there's very little they have to do to introduce who the Joker is, or who Batman is, right? They're giving us context for the situations they're in, not necessarily their characters. It's a lot harder for games where you don't know the main character or the villain's motivations, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, here's a good game the way you don't know the main character and the villains initially. BioShock.
Yeah.
And I don't want to reiterate too much, but yeah, the way that game just sort of immediately kicks off with the plane crash and just leaves you like floundering in the middle of the sea, not knowing what the fuck's going on before leading you down an interactive path to the opening of Rapture. What's his name's Andrew Ryan's impeccable opening monologue, the first glimpse of the city of Rapture. It covers so many. It's an emotional sine wave, that sequence, and I love it.
And it's an example of an intro, also with Bioshock Infinite, that is strengthened once you finish the game. That there's like a circular nature to those stories, and in Infinite with the Lutece twins and everything, what they're saying when you're first approaching the lighthouse is nonsense. And then when you get to the end of the game, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, that's what they mean by he doesn't row, that kind of thing. Or even the opening of Bioshock of like, who are you? Why are you on this plane? What are you looking at? Like, what's the deal with this? That all like context is given to it by the end of the game.
Did you guys know about Rapture when you first played Bioshock? Did you understand it was set in an underwater city, or did you kind of go in blind?
I have no memory whatsoever. I don't remember. I just remember like playing it.
Yeah, I remember. I believe an E3 demo or trailer or something showed that off. So for me, I didn't go in. There was also a demo. Like the game had the demo of the opening, which I think was, again, back in the day, almost all games had demo.
Remember those?
Yeah, right. The good old days.
God, it's so good. I could talk about that all day.
Without going into too much, because I think all of us are, because I'm writing a column on it, but all of us are going to be covering Indiana Jones in our various series. Indiana Jones is an interesting opening because it takes a while to get to the loop of the game. Like, it's time to loop. It takes until you get to the Vatican to be like, oh, this is kind of what this game is. But it kind of makes sense because the game is a lot of different things.
See, the interesting thing is that the game manages to pull off the feel of a classic Indiana Jones movie, and it does that by following the formula established by those movies. And part of that formula is the cold open.
Yeah.
I mean, the game flat out has the cold open from Raiders of the Lost Ark in it at the beginning.
Arguably the most famous interactive cinematic history. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting with that because once you frame it from a design perspective, they've been really clever in the sense of I was playing it, and it was the moment where Indy uses his hand in the shaft of light to make the spikes go out, and then crouches to go under them. I'm like, this is such a... They've gone through step by step and been like, how can we teach a mechanic with the same opening, right? And I think it's very cleverly done. And but that's just from a design perspective. Maybe some people might play that and be like, oh, this is a bit derivative. Why am I playing the same thing again? I personally loved it, but
Yeah, well, it teaches like the swinging across gaps with the whip by using the whole sequence where Indiana Jones swings across a gap with a whip. It translates well to video games, I suppose. Indiana Jones. That's probably why other games have ripped it off.
Uncharted and Tomb Raider exist. Yeah. But it is funny because it's not like, while that opening is it does start doling out little pieces of what you're going to be doing throughout the game. It's not really indicative of what it feels like to play the game once you're a few hours into it, which, that's a problem with a lot of games. And that's not like even games I really like. Like, a Pokemon game doesn't really feel like a Pokemon game until you leave the town, you have your Pokemon, you have your Pokeballs, and you can start catching shit. Tears of the Kingdom doesn't feel like what the rest of the game is until you leave that opening area and have all of your abilities. A Persona game doesn't really feel like a Persona game. I'm replaying Persona 4 now, and it takes a long time before you get into that dungeon.
I know, right? Don't get us started on fucking Persona and Metaphor Fantasia as well.
Yeah, it takes several hours of table setting and throat clearing in order for you to kind of get to what the game actually is. And so I was trying to think of more examples of like really opening moments or opening scenes that like really do it. Like, do you think a game needs to start with gameplay, or do you think a game can start with like if a game starts with a 10-minute cinematic, do you kind of roll your eyes?
Well, it's certainly been the philosophy of a lot of AAA games in recent years that we need to start with a flash forward or a high-octane action sequence. I think God of War started the ball rolling on that. Kicking off with the action intro to establish the controls and stuff. When I'm playing a game...
Been good at that.
I do tend to judge games by how long it takes before we get into gameplay. If I'm like kept waiting like 10 minutes before I start, I can feel my eyes rolling.
Yeah.
So I think it is important to let the player start interacting as soon as possible. I mean, that's what we're here for. It's an interactive narrative, not a narrative narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You want to do it through play rather than as we were talking about with introducing characters, worlds, character motivations and stuff like that. It's very difficult to do that through gameplay interactions unless your gameplay is wholly centered around the narrative itself. Which is why a lot of games struggle and need to have these long-winded 10-minute cutscenes. But even as someone who, even when I want to be invested in a game and I'm trying, right? When I do see a 10-minute cutscene, I do kind of turn my brain off. Like my brain goes, I want to get into it, even if that's just walking down, a lane with an NPC and they're just talking to me.
Yes. I remember saying I did an extra punctuation not too long ago. Well, quite a while ago, because it was an extra punctuation on the subject of the walk and talk sequence in games, which is very easily done very annoyingly.
Yeah.
Arkham Asylum is one of the few examples of it being done well. But then you look at a game like Starfield, which starts with you having to walk slowly behind a dude or a lady, I can't remember, as she like helps you explore a mine. And you go through the mine and explains how boring being a miner is and how boring your life is now because you're a miner. And we tutorialize, lasering some rocks off a wall. And none of this is relating to the full game. Yeah. None of this is setting up.
One of the worst opens in openings in the game. Like, it's absolutely garbage.
You know what opening I really did not like? And granted, I didn't like my whole time with it, was Skyrim. Really? Granted, I did not enjoy Skyrim. I just think that opening of like being on the cart and like waiting to get executed, and then the dragon. Again, if we're talking about something that isn't indicative of what the actual game is, it doesn't feel until you leave the sewers. Like until our challenge started, until our bucket challenge started.
Well, I think it's pretty cool, actually. You think you're going to be executed, but then, hey, curveball. It's an improvement on the fucking Oblivion start, where you literally just sit in a cell and wait for Patrick Stewart to come and talk at you for a bit.
I don't want Patrick Stewart to talk to me.
I agree with both of you. I think it does some things right, but also the whole nature of having I guess you could call it interactive cutscene, where you are, sometimes they're more annoying when you're forced to sit somewhere but you have camera control, so it's like this pseudo control that can be quite annoying. Like, you know what the Skyrim
intro does really well is establish your character as a blank slate. Because when the first thing you know about your character is that they're about to die and everything's fucked, that is how you broadcast to the player, there is nothing left for you in your past. You are starting afresh.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah.
And giving you that framing to be able to make the character you want. Like being either about to be executed, they need your information, or being in prison, or something like that.
I think pretty much every Elder Scrolls game starts with you being in prison or being a prisoner for some reason or another.
It's a great starting point.
There's a mod for Oblivion which instead of starting in a prison, it starts you off in like a random port, and the actual plot of the game doesn't start until you commit a crime.
Oh, funny!
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
I mean, you guys started off in some form of incarceration in Adventurers Die, right?
Oh, yeah.
You guys did it bad, and we're locked up in the back of a wagon.
You all meet in a cell. It's a classic role-playing opening sequence. Dark Souls as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also there's some openings that I really love, and I'm sort of scared to go back to because I think they might be like a one-trick pony, or maybe like a one-time thing, and that's like Phantom Pain and even Red Dead 2. Those are games I have not replayed.
Phantom Pain. I agree. I remember the intro to Phantom Pain goes on really, really long, way too long.
It's well over an hour of like you crawl around the world, not really knowing who you are, and
and I feel like a lot of it's just sort of establishing the same point over and over again unnecessarily.
It almost
like,
feels...
hey, things are fucked. You are in a fucked place, and things are only getting more fucked.
It almost feels like they released Ground Zeroes to sort of be like, hey, don't worry, you're gonna have like base infiltrations in this game, but for Phantom Pain, it's gonna take a while to get there. You're gonna have to like get your face bandage and then crawl through a bunch of your homies getting killed, and then a big flaming horse is gonna appear.
You were right in saying with the Red Dead 2 as well. Like my brain, I just finished Red Dead 1 Remastered. Absolutely loved my time with it, and thought to myself, I'm going to go play through Red Dead 2. Red Dead 2 is unbelievably good, and it's a wonderful piece of art. But I started it, and I saw the snow, and I was like, oh yeah, this game doesn't really start until you get out of the snow, and that takes like an hour and a half. And I was like, I'll go do something else.
Yeah.
I remember noting, playing Red Dead Redemption 2 for the first time, that in that initial sequence walking through the snow, you don't know which character you're playing as for the longest time. Because they all look the same, and you're back to the camera.
Yeah, they're all bundled up and trying to trudge through. That's. I always feel like certain games should have, if you've already beaten them, have the ability to be like, well, just start when the stuff starts happening. Like if I load up a new game of Breath of the Wild, just assume I'm done with the Great Plateau. Like as much as I love that as a tutorial, like I don't need a tutorial in that game anymore. Like I'm good.
I love Half-Life, and I replay it a lot, and frequently I'll just start at the Unforeseen Consequences chapter after all the intro stuff.
Yeah, that doesn't make it bad. It's just like...
Just we've seen it before. We don't need it being set up for us again.
Because the setup doesn't work as well when you already know the setup. Like the setup has already done its job for you, and you've remembered it.
And that's the failing of, a calm intro that the action-packed intro does not have. The action-packed intro feels like getting straight into the action, like straight into the core experience of the game.
Yeah.
I feel like a good game for that is Bioshock 2, because we have a lot of understanding of, the narrative, its world, its characters. So it basically just immediately starts with, the little, as the big daddy, your little sister being taken, the motivation of the villain, and then it's like, boom, go. Off you pop. And that, for me, as a sequel, is doing its opening really well, because it understands we have all of this context, which is really important.
It's the last year or two has been interesting in looking at remakes. Part of me is thinking, because I feel like, as weird as it is, we're going to get a BioShock remake at some point.
Oh yeah,
10 years. As weird as it is, make that face. I completely agree. But you just saw in the last year and a half, we got a Resident Evil 4 remake and a Silent Hill 2 remake. And granted, those were a generation prior. But it was interesting to look at how the openings of those two games, because I think their original games are two incredibly iconic openings of OG Silent Hill 2 and Resi 4, and how the remakes either stuck to the script or expanded things a little bit. Silent Hill 2 feels like it very much stuck to the script, at least in that opening of going through. Although by changing the perspective, which you guys both talked about, you kind of change the tone of that opening.
Yeah, right up until you actually get to town, it's like a 1-for-1 copy, except from third person behind the bottom camera perspective.
Yeah.
But Resident Evil 4 adds a lot.
It
to
does,
the intro.
In the original game, you get to that town siege shootout thing in minutes, in like 2 minutes.
They add the Resident Evil 7 intro to Resident Evil 4.
Stumble into the scary house and everything. Yeah,
creeping through a scary house and like first combat encounter, etc. And it's nighttime.
Yeah. I'm curious how 1-to-1 the Metal Gear Solid 3 intro is going to be in this remake, because
it's a weird blind spot of mine that I never got around to playing the original Metal Gear Solid 3. I've played through literally every other Metal Gear Solid all the way through, and I've never played 3.
Snakier.
Do you think you're just going to go into the remake?
I guess so. I guess I'm going to offer a fresh perspective.
Yeah,
in a way that I couldn't offer Silent Hill 2.
Yeah. Well, I haven't played any of them, so I've got the
who's this man?
Newborn perspective.
Who's this man in this jungle?
Yeah.
I guess I was just turned off because I liked Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 for being, for the sort of like nice, clean, understandable facility setting. And the jungle just felt like it would add far too many disparate parameters.
Yeah.
It does feel very different to play than like Metal Gear Solid 2. The opening on the tanker that's like a really interesting opening in and of itself, because it starts with a fairly lengthy cutscene of you walking across the George Washington Bridge or the Verrazano Bridge or whatever bridge it is, and then jumping off onto the tanker to reveal yourself. Not like a showing your penis kind of way, but just, hey, it's Solid Snake. But then
It's a solid snake.
It's a solid snake. But then right from there, you're like, oh, here's an area where you can play with all your toys and go through it as you see fit. Like, try to get to the bottom of this tanker however you want. Which I think Kojima's pretty good at. Like, for as hockey as he is, his opening areas are generally neat little microcosms of what the entire game are. Like, even in the opening of Shadow Moses and Metal Gear Solid 1, when you swim up,
yes.
Yeah, you have to wait for the elevator to get down and everything.
That classic first room of the Metal Gear Solid 1.
I always feel immersive sims, not that Metal Gear Solid is necessarily an immersive sim, but immersive sims have interesting openings because they do just drop you in and usually go for it, find your way through. And I'm wondering on your opinions on that, lads. Like, do you like it when a game just kind of chucks you in the deep end, or do you prefer it to hold your hand for a little bit before it brings you out? Because Indiana Jones does that. I think it holds your hand until it lets you into the Vatican and just lets you go.
I like a game to give me something to work towards, but not necessarily hold my hand the whole way through. Like, one of the things, a trope I've always enjoyed seeing in games, and Indiana Jones does this as well, actually, which I was gratified to see, is where a game simply says, like, gives you like an open space with lots of things to do, and says, you need to make this amount of money or this amount of experience, and we don't care how you do that, just do it, and then we'll pick up with a plot.
Yeah,
and that's what I appreciate, because it helps you, like, it incentivizes an initial exploration of the open world.
Oh yeah.
And in Indiana Jones, you have to like find enough money to pay for, in every chapter actually, you have to find enough money to pay for the tool that will help you through the chapter you're about to play.
And what I really liked, so you guys both have played way more of Indiana Jones than I have, but I like that the first thing you have to buy is a camera. But the game doesn't just start you at zero when you get that mission. Like, if you poked around both the college as well as that sort of pre-Vatican area that, like, at night, like, you can find the money. So when I beelined the camera thing, I just had the money to buy it, and I was like, oh, okay. So it's one of those things where it's not like the game ignores the parameters before you accept the mission. It's I like a game where it's like, if I have to collect 5 apples for someone, it doesn't start the counter at 0 when I talk to them. Like, if I have 5 apples, they'll be like, oh, you have the apples, well, thank you, all right, mission done.
I always appreciate that. And for the first 2 items in Indiana Jones, I already had the money. For the third one, I didn't, and I had to go on and the moment I left the store, Indy said, maybe I could go to such and such a place. They'd probably have some money lying around, which was a nice little prompt that I also appreciated.
Yeah.
I didn't. So we all know about the camera, right? So I had done a bunch of exploring and was trying to do everything I could, but I was about like 10 or so gold Vatican bucks away from
V-Bucks.
Getting the camera. Yeah, V-Bucks away from getting the camera. So Lira? It facilitates.
Would it have been Lira?
Yeah, potentially. It facilitates this exploration, and it feels self-driven, and I really like that. And as we spoke about, and I'm gonna do I want to do a full breakdown of the Vatican as a level because I think it's insane. But the way that the necessity for the money led me to the threads to other side quests, which completing those got me money and led me back to the main quest, was so beautiful. And it's just how you encourage that through a currency is just really fascinating.
Also, shout out to a game that lets you steal a bunch of fascist biscotti.
I was munching on that biscotti.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I stole so much biscotti. It was great.
Fuck you, Mussolini. No biscotti for you.
When I was doing a little, I was just looking through a list of games to be like, oh, which games have over the past decade or so really stick out in terms of their opening. 2 sticking with Bethesda-owned studios, Doom 2016 and Prey 2017 for slightly different reasons. Doom Prey 2016 because when we talk about getting to the core loop, you get to the core loop within 10 seconds. Like
Yeah.
there's like a little bit of a monologue, and then it just says "rip and tear," and then you're ripping and tearing.
Yeah.
But then Prey is just like its opening
The
almost
intro-
feels like a short film in and of itself.
The opening to Prey is literally one of the only things I remember about that fucking game.
The apartment window smashing and it revealing the facility, I think, is one of the greatest moments.
Great moment.
Yeah. It's insane.
I, for one, I'm looking forward to seeing how Judas begins.
Yeah.
The latest game from that stable.
Betraying Jesus.
Yeah, probably betraying Jesus, if we're being honest. Yeah.
There you go. Well, surely that would be the
Ken
end.
Levine has set a high bar between the Bioshocks. So
Oh yes.
Yeah. He knows how to start.
He has not released a game in 11 years.
I know, right?
He knows. Well, he knows how to start games. He's not so good at finishing them. Am I right?
Very, very right.
Womp womp.
Shall we go to super chats? I feel like they've been building up, and everyone's got their own views on this.
Yeah, no, there's a bunch of these that'll lead us off in different directions.
All right, first of all, Jumbly Wobbly, welcome to the Green Gang.
Welcome, Jumbly. Been a member for a whole year. Hachi machu.
And then Yahtzee doesn't wear a green hat, gives €5, and says, "My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. Happy birthday." Oh, I see. You were trying to manipulate me, were you? You thought I would be wearing a green hat today to sort of teach you a lesson or something like that, or to pay into your weird thing you were doing. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint. Here's a yellow cushion. I will put it on my head. You can say it's green. Are you happy now?
Yeah,
correct it.
Certain flavors of colorblind would look at that and be like, "Yeah,
I thought that was green, and I'm colorblind." So
yeah.
Well, there you go.
It looks like you have a large fortune cookie on your head.
If you were colorblind, then Yahtzee doesn't wear a green hat.
Oh, there you go.
Right,
The filter. With the filter, you currently have a green hat on, and you are.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
it's
like
not
a fucked up Yoshi.
It's not technically a hat. It's just a cushion with one of the corners folded in. But I'm wearing it as a hat.
What's that pirate hat? A tricorn hat? Is that what they're called? Tricorn?
Yeah. Well, depends what sort of hat you're talking about.
Tricorn has free for try.
Yes, that's why it's called a tricorn. But a lot of what people would consider a pirate hat would be more like a Napoleon hat.
There you go.
I'd say this feels more like a Napoleon hat to me.
There you go.
Number 10 gives $5 and says, "Do you think your limited playtime on certain games has significantly affected your reviews in a negative way?" I think there have been cases where games certainly actually finally start rolling once you get to the end. I think a lot of Yakuza games do that. But by and large, if you're not sure you like a game after like 30 hours in, that's on the game, if you ask me.
Yeah.
And that's part of like the way you've been reviewing games your entire career is I spend a week with a game and rain, sleet, or snow, I'm going to give you my opinion of it kind of thing. So if it takes more than a week to get to the good stuff, well,
yeah,
viewer beware. Yeah.
It's your own time you're wasting, games. Yeah. Fungus Finder gives $2 and says, "Portal 1 and 2 will surely be said before this chat."
Somehow it wasn't. I was thinking of it though when we talking about like there's no skips in those. Like those are no skip intros to me. Well, Portal 1 you can't really skip because it just starts and you're just playing the game. But I love that little Portal 2 waking up in the apartment and meeting Wheatley.
They are very different intros of Portal 1 and 2. Portal 1 literally just chucks you right in it. Hey, we're testing you. Do some puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
And Portal 2 is like this elaborate cinematic sequence.
Yeah.
With lovely Stephen Merchant.
Yeah.
Portal 2's intro almost feels more like Half-Life 2's intro.
Well, you could see in Portal 1, they didn't have as much of a budget because it was still like the niche extra game they weren't sure would pay out. And then it really did pay out. So they were putting the effort back in for Portal 2.
Yeah. Yeah, and even like Portal 2, that opening, you're like visually like, oh my god, yeah, this game clearly has a lot of money thrown into it. Like you just see like all the different apartments folding apart and being put together and everything, and cool shit.
Vactor gives $2 and says something. Oh, they're doing a little thing.
Oh, I get it.
And then Fox T says, "A great intro is one that instantly comes flooding back with just a few words. Truth is, the game was rigged from the start." Now, that was Fallout New Vegas, was it?
Oh, I
I believe so. Yeah, with Matthew Perry shooting you in the face.
Yes. The late Matthew Perry.
Yep.
Oh, sure enough. I've never played any of the Fallout games, so I had no idea what that was from. I did not realize Matthew Perry was in that game.
No, yes. And he died of Hollywood drugs, I think.
Well, that was in real life, not in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he could die for a whole bunch of reasons in the game.
That's the magic of open world games. Is he this man? This man in the suit?
Yeah,
It's like
checker
putting you
jacket
in
is like
grave?
the only thing I remember from him is that line in
Yeah.
that jacket.
That's
Yeah.
a cool jacket, I will say.
What is that? Houndstooth? Or just no, it's just checks, isn't it?
It looks.
Yeah.
It looks. That's a. Okay, now I kind of want to play this game. Everyone has been telling me when I'm like I don't like Bethesda.
New
games,
Vegas
but
is
I'll
really good.
Trying to New Vegas. It's not Bethesda, but it does kind of what they do.
Have we brought up the fact that one of the dog boys in Metaphor Fantasio wears houndstooth fabric at all times?
I don't think we have. I like those dog boys. I
What
think about
is
those dog boys a
houndstooth?
lot.
Houndstooth is a very specific kind of pattern. I recognize it because it used to be like a Windows 95 wallpaper.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
And
I
one of the dog
recognise that.
boys just wears a houndstooth suit the whole time, which is a very, very subtle little joke that I appreciated.
Hell yeah.
Frogs disseminating other frogs for friends gives $2 and says Pentiment had a satisfying walk and talk sequence. If you say so. I don't really remember one or much of that
Haven't
game.
played it
Pentiment does, yeah, it does, and that is a game where if the game is primarily about walking and talking, you're allowed to start your game with a walk and talk.
I suppose. I mean, as we say, like the start of the game should be like the first paragraph in the academic essay. So
Yeah.
sets the tone, establishes
your
what
game-
we can expect.
If your game is about walking and talking, can you start with anything but walking and talking?
I suppose not.
Firewatch starts with like a weird little twine game of like your relationship with your wife and how she ends up getting early onset.
Oh yeah,
And yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. I liked Indica's opening this year. If I think of openings, I
Haven't
like
touched that one either.
that very quickly is like it goes from this is going to be a walk and talk to this is going to be a very fucked up walk and talk.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Alex Armstrong gives $2. It says Infamous's Ray Sphere explosion is still memorable. It's a good game, Infamous.
It's a great game.
What if they put those on PC and modern platforms? Wouldn't that
I'd be very pleased if that should happen.
Wouldn't
Well,
that
you
be
know,
something?
I mean, I guess it would need a certain amount of remastering at this point.
I mean, if they'd done it with the Last of Us games 15 times, they could do it with that.
Well, maybe, the developers, Sucker Punch, I think it was Sucker Punch, want to move on and do new things, which I guess I understand. But I think it's
Yeah.
money they're leaving on the table. I think that's free money they could have at any time.
Yeah, it seems like Sony should just have. I know Sony does have third-party studios that do that kind of thing because, like, Sucker Punch now is working on the Tsushima games, which sold. Ghost of Tsushima 1 probably sold more than all of the Infamous games combined. It's kind of like the Insomniac Spider-Man thing. Like, Spider-Man was so big that's just like, well,
You're
this is
making
the rest of your
Spider-Man
life.
now. Have fun.
Yeah, you're the Spider-Man studio.
Yeah. Still, free money is free money. But there's me with my old non-corporate thinking. I mean, it wouldn't be all the money in the world, admittedly, but it would be money.
Money's great.
Snake in the Garden gives €2 rather, and says Doom 2016. Is it the best opening for its theming? For setting the tone, possibly.
It might be. I mean, the time to action is.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know
literally.
if any modern AAA game is faster.
I mean, yeah, literally just game starts, your character smashes the shit out of 2 zombies.
yeah.
But is that because the tone is so simple, right? I think the mentioned BioShock might be the best game for setting tone.
Yeah, I guess it would be more. It's more artful and interesting for a game to have a simple intro when it's setting up a very complicated game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Doom is entirely about the gameplay. I mean, I'm
Oh,
sure some
no,
people come
100%.
for the story, whereas like BioShock, there's some people who are like, I don't care about the gameplay, but I think the story in the world's really cool. So by focusing on that, you are catering to part of the audience.
Is
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, about your semi-emblematic, what's your new 2013 fifth best game? I guess Batman Arkham City.
That was
not a
2011.
bad choice.
There you go.
That was
that
2011.
was sort of-
That was Arkham City 2013's.
Oh, sorry. What was 2013's fifth best game originally?
I don't know.
Hang on.
Assassin's Creed,
Assassin's,
Killzone,
Hang on.
Rise,
Black Flag.
Hang on.
Last of Us, GTA 5, Tomb Raider, Revengeance.
Stop guessing. Okay, my fifth best game of 2013 was Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag. No, that's fourth best, sorry. Fifth best was Metal Gear Rising Revengeance.
You're not taking those guys off. You love Black Flag, you can't take off. You talk about Black Flag a lot.
No, well, I remember saying that I was surprised I didn't give a prize to FTL that year.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Did you come to it late? Did you not play it that year?
I did play it that year. I guess I didn't really get really into it until later. In fact, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to say that's my new fifth best game. FTL, Faster Than Light.
Oh, there you go.
Congrats, FTL.
Fox D gives $10. Says there should be a metric of time to call gameplay loop for intros. Here's a truck, here's how to drive it. It's week 1 of your franchise's first season. Here's 15 parsnip seeds, plant them. Yes, I mean, you know, you can't really measure things by length of intro sequence anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's plenty of games whose games that I love, but I hate the intros. Like, I think the Okami intro is really long. Like, the time to gameplay loop to get out of that
Jesus Christ
takes a long time.
Everyone keeps banging on for so bloody long, and you can't skip the text fast enough.
Yeah. Nier Automata has that, like, really fucking difficult opening, and if you die at any point during it, you have to restart the whole thing, and then afterwards you get to the actual world. Kick rocks.
Lastimosas gives 50 somethings and says, I love Tekken 8 music intro. It hypes me to game.
What about, are there like intros? I guess we weren't talking about like pre-game intros. Like, do you count the like...
What, like the attract mode sequence?
Almost, yeah. I don't like it when there's a cutscene that plays before you start a game, and that same cutscene doesn't play when you start the game. Like, it's fine if it's just a montage of things. Like, Persona 4 Golden's intro is amazing. Like, the harmonica playing and everything, and the montage. Like, that's excellent. But
I'm not a big fan of where it's like a montage of upcoming events in the game. I feel like this is a JRPG thing that happens a lot. I feel like because it often spoils shit. I'm like, pissed off.
Look, I don't want to see later party members and stuff. Like, I want to be surprised when this person's a party member.
Yeah. I also
Unless
don't want to see a title card. Like, I mean, Breath of the Wild is the perfect example of this. It gives you a bit of a tutorial before you get your title card. But like, if a game just opens with either some credits or some ambient music and then a title card, I'm already starting to switch off. Like, I'm like, please just show me something, right? Like, I know what the game's called. I bought the fucking game. Just like, show me something.
Yeah. I thought Indiana Jones's title card was really bad. It's like,
you think?
Yeah, it's like occurs. It's when you're in the museum before you go to Italy.
Yeah,
and it just kind of shows up, and it's in like boring.
Yeah,
font. I'm like,
because there's a lot of other times in the game where they like have like a smash caption showing you your current location, and those are often pulled off really well.
Yeah, and those are the perfect places to put them, right? I think on the first one, when you're flying to the Vatican, it should have been like, boom, Indiana Jones.
Like there's a bit,
over the map, absolutely.
Yeah,
like there's a bit where you're in Shanghai, and I think a character literally says, "Where are we anyway?" And you like, and at that exact moment, you walk up like a hill, and to reveal a skybox, and then the caption comes out just like, "Bam, Shanghai, China."
I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind when I get there.
No spoilers.
I'm gonna lose it.
That entire sequence was insane. Like, it's very good.
It. That is, I love when you take big bold letters and just throw them in front of my face, like Control. Yeah. Every time you get to a new area in Control, and those fucking like brutalist letters. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. Hjorth87 gives 20 Danish kroner and says, Cyberpunk 2077 did it well. Small intro sandbox, then boom. You know, I only played through that game once, and I really don't remember what happened at the start of Cyberpunk.
You and
Keanu
Reeves do like a little heist, right? And then you get killed.
Yeah.
No, Keanu Reeves doesn't come in until like a few hours
it's a while later.
into the
yeah.
I think that's a game where the opening is a bit too long. Like, it takes a while to get into the game properly.
What was The Witcher's opening?
That's even worse.
Yeah, that's
it's like you're
that's a
training
really
with like
long-
your daughter, right? Or I've only played the opening of that game, so I don't know who that character
Training
is.
with Siri, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Is that your daughter, or is that not your daughter?
Hey Siri,
Doc
etc.
did.
Ah,
Yeah. Blistered Soul gives £5 and says Pacific Drive, approaching the massive Olympic exclusion zone wall, ghosts on the road on the radio, sets the tone setting, game's driving mechanic. Bam. Yeah, it's a good game, that, Pacific Drive. I like it. Look out for it in my upcoming top 5, I think.
wow!
Yeah, I need to play that.
I can't believe that came out this year.
I know, it's been such a year. So many good
There's been
games.
a lot of games. Yeah.
Yeah,
So many good indie games.
yeah.
Not so hot on the AAA level.
Half of the course.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, want to say Sonic Colors, but it tricks you later on. I kind of like Sonic Colors. I'm just going to say it.
I'm trying to think of Sonic openings I like. The Sonic Frontiers.
They don't
opening is
open
so
without
weird.
you running fast, then I think they've kind of failed.
Yeah, Sonic Colors I just think starts with sort of a standard Sonic level, and then, then it kicks off the plot once you finish that.
Does Sonic 06 start with you kissing a woman on the lips?
No, actually, this comes into the next super chat where Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, speaking of Sonic, 06 intro felt like Final Fantasy. No, the snogging comes quite a ways into the game. The start is a very, very out of place sequence that feels like, as we say, a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
Takes place in like Final Fantasy Venice.
Yeah.
And then
looks
Sonic
like fucking
shows
Final
up.
Fantasy 8 or like Final Fantasy 15. Yeah.
Of that game's many mistakes, it shouldn't have tried to depict Dr. Robotnik in a way that looks like a realistic person.
Yeah, it makes me uncomfortable. Makes
know.
my whole body uncomfortable. That being said, some Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 6, the slow walk up to Narshe. What a good. That might be like the first one of those scenes I've ever seen in a game. Oh my god.
Yeah, I remember that. Sort of blew my mind a little bit.
And then even the Final Fantasy 7 intro, just immediately being like, you are a mercenary with a group of eco-terrorists and you have to blow up this power plant. Great.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dr. Theo gives $10 and says, Yahtzee, have you heard of the start to slime ratio? It determines how long it takes from pressing start to getting to the core game. The first Zelda has a ratio of 0, while Animal Crossing has literal weeks. I think that's what we've been talking about, but I never heard it called the start to slime ratio.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's Dragon Quest?
Dragon Quest, yeah.
I like that.
All the games gives $9.99 and says, one of the Naruto fighting games lets you fight in the background while the opening credits rolled with a voiceover. You could button mash and experiment with mechanics while getting the big story dump.
Okay.
Yeah, fair enough.
I kind of like that.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
I mean, something similar happens in No More Heroes, the introductory boss fight against, what's his name, Death Metal, I think he's called. There's sort of like Travis gives a sort of monologue over the fight, establishing his character and the setting.
Oh, I like that.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's hard to pay attention to because, it's No More Heroes combat.
Sure,
But
sure.
It's interesting from an artistic perspective.
There you go.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, my bro says Titanfall 2 had best opening tutorial. I think the opening tutorial in Titanfall 2 sort of calls back to opening tutorials from older games like Half-Life, Deus Ex, that sort of thing.
Oh, the actual here's the time attack tutorial, like it's a separate thing.
Yeah. It's like we're going through a training course.
Yeah. You did a
Yes, I did a semi-emblematic on the lost art of the tutorial level because, of course, most games these days have integrated tutorials to get you into the action as fast as possible, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's just, I kind of miss the specific vibes that a tutorial level used to have.
Also, if you want to know how it can negatively impact you, Casey and I did not realize that when we played Half-Life, and so we just never played the hazard course and no one yelled at us to do that. And then at a certain point when we had to crouch jump or long jump or whatever it was, we were like, how the fuck do we do this?
That was
game hasn't told us this at all.
That was a kind of a dumb thing. You don't need the long jump until way, way, way late in the game, and it's only tutorialized in the hazard course.
Yeah,
but yes, it's very silly. Nintendo U gives $2 and says, are there any games with good slow starts? Arkham Asylum, as we said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say Shadow of the Colossus has a nice slow, like a very long cutscene, and then you take a nice long ride and a climb to get to the first Colossus.
Sometimes I appreciate the logical opposite of the cold open, which is the introducing the character literally from birth, which Assassin's Creed 2 does.
Yeah. Are there any other games that begin with your birth?
Fallout 3.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like establishes your entire childhood and history in the vault.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kind of appreciate that if we're aiming for a slower, more cerebral experience.
Yeah.
I believe in Doodoo Man gives $2. It says, Yachts rocking the Peridot Dome. Deny, defend, depose. I don't know what you're on about.
Dome's not there
Sorry?
anymore. Dome's not there anymore. Deny, defend, depose was the thing that was written on the bullet of the guy who killed that CEO the other week.
Oh, okay. That's, the more I hear about that guy, the cooler he sounds. The assassin, I mean.
He just disappeared.
He just disappeared in the middle of one of the most scrutinized cities in the world. And nobody knows who he was. And now you're telling me he had a cool, slogan carved into his bullet? Fucking sweet.
Truly Hitman.
And he killed someone who everybody hates.
Yeah, he killed a insurance company. CEO.
CEO.
They had the guy. Apparently, they caught the guy an hour ago.
No
way.
Well, let him go again. Break him out of prison. Start a people's revolution. Storm the Bastille.
Yeah.
He was because the company has the company's got something like the insurance company's got something like a 30% denial rate for medical procedures.
Anyone who's ever had to deal with
yeah,
it is so clear who's ever had to deal with this and who hasn't.
I think it's wild that we live in a country where you can pay an obscene amount of money every month and then they can still say no to basic medical stuff. It is wild.
I mean, obviously murder's illegal, but this is like if someone murdered that dude who that really smug asshole who increased the price of
insulin
to 500%.
Yeah.
If someone shot that guy, I think everyone would be behind that.
Wild. What a time to be alive, honestly, that shit like this is happening.
That's Marty's line.
Sorry, Marty.
You know what? This is a time for all of us to be alive.
Oh my god, truly.
Adam Haykiller gives $5. It says, caught you live today thanks to skipping work, but you've distracted me while reheating my leftovers, and now my chips are mildly burned. I blame Marty.
Me? How did I get blamed?
I hope you mean
burnt chips.
I hope you mean British style chips because you're not supposed to cook potato chips, right?
Recook them. Just cook them again.
I was out for food on the weekend, and it was at this Japanese sushi place, but they served fish and chips, and I was like,
yeah.
I wanted to get it mainly because I was like, wouldn't it be funny? Because I didn't, because I'm not a meme lord, but I was like, I want to get it just to see if they give fries, chips, or crisps, And the funniest thing is, I ordered something else, and then they brought me my food, and it was fish and chips. And we had to send it back. Okay. And I was like, did they just pick it because I'm British, the fucking assholes?
Racism.
And they brought me my actual food.
Yeah. This is what you people like.
I know.
Gives $2. Says, Yachts, more likely to go back to Baldur's Gate 3 or Metaphor? Probably Metaphor. I'd be more likely to go back to. Since you ask.
I feel like Metaphor is relatively easy to slip back into after a while, whereas Baldur's Gate seems like it would be like, I need to restart this.
Yeah.
I love Baldur's Gate 3, but the idea of starting that game again makes me feel ill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, not a start, but the I expect you to die intros are great. Spy type intros, the villains singing about how they will win, surrounding you in VR. Okay, never played that.
Yeah, I like them.
I expect you to die is the name of a game. I thought that.
Yeah, they're VR
intro.
They're VR escape room games, effectively themed around spy gadgets and James Bond escape scenes.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
It's really, really fun VR games. Really, really fun.
Alex Armstrong gives $2. Says Wolfenstein: The New Order's split path needs to be done more. Yeah, I've often said I appreciate that. How at the start of the game you have to pick a character to die, and it basically has ripple effects for the entire plot. Because I considered that a really interesting and much more interesting alternative to the sort of ending Tron 3000 thing, where you decide the thing that changes the plot at the very end of the game, like completely unrelating to any of the choices you made up to that point.
It happening soon as well makes it more replayable because it's easier to get to the event that could branch rather than with the Little Sisters and BioShock. I've never really given a shit about that option because I know it's not really going to affect much until much later into the game. So having it towards the beginning is way more interesting to me.
I also,
but then at the start of New Colossus, they had to slightly sheepishly ask you again which character was supposed to be alive. Sorry, could you just do this choice again? Yes, quickly. Sorry, quickly.
I also I didn't realize it the first time I played, but when I replayed Wolfenstein 1 the other day, the New Order, that later in the game too, there's a moment to where there's a total optional thing in your home base to where you can teach that one lady how to shoot. The lady who's always obsessed with the numbers and stuff, and she has codes and shit written all over the place. And that, whether you teach her to shoot or not, impacts a cutscene later on in the game when the base is being infiltrated and everything, and she's gonna die either way, but how she dies is guns a-blazing if you taught her how to shoot, or very sad and tragic if you didn't.
See, cool. I didn't get that because I picked the other character to die, so that support character was replaced by Jimi Hendrix. And the reason why I made the choice, because I remember this very clearly, because they gave me the choice, and I was feeling I'm actually really liking this game. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick the character I like most to die, and see if the game can come back. So I picked the cool Scottish guy to die, because he was the character I preferred.
I'm now realizing I've never played the game without letting that guy live, because I had no idea that character, the other character, would change. I had no idea.
Yeah. I'm going to kill him and see if I still like the game without him. And I did. And I also got to hang out with Jimi Hendrix because of it.
But you didn't have a cool dude named Fergus. Was his name Fergus? He felt like a Fergus.
Yeah, he was Fergus.
Fergus is such a Scottish name.
Classic Fergus.
Yeah, he was a very Scottish man. He was stereotypical, one might say. Sovereign gives €20 and says, while kinda overlong, I've always appreciated the opening to Fallout 3. Starting with your birth, growing up in a vault with tutorials and character creation naturally spread throughout. Pretty immersive by BGS standards.
Figures.
I agree for the first time through, but there's a reason why modders
I forgot
have modded in.
I forgot they literally had your mum's vagina blood on the camera.
Oh, great.
Right at the beginning. Yes, which also consists of vagina blood.
True.
I mean, you can have both.
You're usually so on it with words, Jans. I had to step in for a second.
If I meant placenta, I would have said placenta. The placenta doesn't come out at the same time as the baby. You have to give it a couple of minutes first.
You're actually pronouncing it wrong. It's called placenta.
Oh, I had some of that at the restaurant the other day.
Oh, did you?
Really
HPD. HPD.
But I had to wait a few minutes before it came out with the rest of the meal.
I've heard of people eating placentas, and I was curious, but then I actually saw an actual placenta twice now.
They cook it, right? They say it tastes like bacon.
Personally, I wouldn't, because it looks kind of gross. It looks like a Portuguese man of war.
Wait. There's a reason why Sovereign, I agree, but also there's a reason why modders have the most downloaded mod for Fallout 3 is skip the opening.
Right.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Different strokes for different forks.
Was that Fergus? Fergus, you back?
Oh no, that was a Yorkshire accent.
Oh, my mistake. Sorry.
That'll be about half the cast of Game of Thrones. Garfield2326 gives $10 and says, wish I got to experience Half-Life 1's intro back when it came out. Experiencing it for the first in a co-op version of it 20 years late wasn't quite the way I should have experienced it. Okay, well, speaking as someone who did experience it fresh when it first came out, and who was used to FPSs just being shit like Quake 1, where they just drop you in a room with a gun, the intro to Half-Life blew my fucking mind.
Mm. Yeah. What was it? What was it that tickled your brain?
Because just the very fact that you don't have a gun and you're not immediately called to explore a maze-like level looking for keys. You're literally just going to work, establishing the scene in a way you would never seen before in video games.
Compare this to Doom, compare it to Duke Nukem, even compare it to GoldenEye.
Yeah,
like
because
those are all
you have
just
to bear in mind.
start killing.
You have to bear in mind those were the contemporaries of Half-Life at the time.
Yeah.
Is that successful because of the mind frame you were in when you were playing it? Like, would you say that the nowadays Half-Life 1's opening is just as successful, or is it because of that context?
It was because of the context, because a lot of games do the slow ride into work thing these days.
Yeah.
Prey 2016 springs to mind.
Yeah, but even the there's a handful of games around that time where I'd say a similar thing, that like the intro was incredible for the time, and then looking back, it might be a little less incredible because it's so par for the course now. Like Super Metroid having that cold opening of the space station and everyone's fucking dead, and you make it to the end and you have to fight Ridley and then escape. Like that's super fucking cool, and for the time it was like mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yes. Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, Yahtzee, when talking about adventure games, you always rave about Monkey Island 1 and 2 and Grim Fandango, yet barely about Day of the Tentacle. Why is that?
Yeah, Yahtzee.
Well, firstly, Monkey Island 1 and 2 were the ones I had as a kid and played the shit out of. Day of the Tentacle came along a bit later. But Grim Fandango is just such a mind-blowingly good story with a really interesting original setting. I think Day of the Tentacle, it's still a good game. It left me a little colder because it is very rooted in what I would call classic Americana, which didn't quite resonate as well with me as a British person growing up in Britain.
Yeah. Whereas the kind of Day of the Dead themed afterlife feels like much more of like a...
I mean, the whole concept of exploring a setting between three different time periods, because you play as three different characters who got who had accidents with different time machines, was very interesting from a design perspective, but it just wasn't as well written a story.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Phil My Ass Up gives 50 Norwegian kroner and says, if game openings benefit from the tone it's trying to set, then surely it only counts for new IPs. How does one recreate it if it's a sequel? Well, you just do it again, like in Arkham City. Again, like the start of it is just, hey, here's all the stuff you're about to deal with.
Arkham City is wild to play, considering it just feels like a direct sequel to Arkham Asylum, but you're like, what happened to this place? Because apparently there was like a comic book that fills in all the gaps, but you're like, why did this city go to hell? Like, what? And why am I Bruce Wayne being arrested? And why does Hugo Strange know who I am?
I like the opening of City more than I like Asylum. I love the, beating the shit out of the goons as you're being as you're handcuffed. I love that power play of they're like, yeah, let's beat up the rich dude, and you just
and then at a certain point he just shatters,
breaks
his
out,
like,
the scaling the building and having the suit being like missiled into the building and getting it, and then just being like, this city is mine. I think it's one of my favorite open world reveals of just like, and go.
And then as soon as you have the suit, you could just glide off the building, and like you have a destination in mind, but you could just go, that is really good. Starting at a street level and then getting you up there. Yeah,
it's so beautiful.
And then what did Arkham Knight was like the first person thing in the diner, and like
that wasn't quite.
I never played Knight.
Yeah, it was like a first person. You're in a diner that the Scarecrow like.
It sets up Scarecrow stuff, but not much else.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where Batman is at the very start of the game.
He had a big shit. He's in the diner bathroom.
Yeah.
He had Rhea. He ate too much of Jay's birthday placenta.
Oh no.
Dr. Theo gives $2 and says, quick shout out to Breath of the Wild start. Breath of the Wild start is a perfect example of what I've called unfolding, which I think is one of the best ways to do like an open world game. You start off in the smallest possible space, unfold the piece of paper, double the space in size, unfold it again, double in size again, and again, and then open world.
That's a little bit what Indiana Jones does, because I feel like the Raiders opening is extremely linear, and then the thing at the school is like a very small, but you can choose how you get to.
It's a narrative hook, right? The school is a narrative pull.
Yeah, because if you just drop someone in the middle of Breath of the Wild's Hyrule before you have that intro, you would be like, oh, this is overwhelming.
But you can freely explore the museum right at the start. Like the game says, hey, go check out what happened with all that business with the dude, with Tony Todd. But you can just go, fuck that. I'm just going to check everyone's office and steal everyone's stuff.
I'm going to steal everyone's apples.
That museum was the first kind of hint that I was going to be really impressed with the level design and the environment art of that game. Because I don't want to spoil where you go after the Vatican for Marty, but the area there's lots of things in there where they very easily could have reused models and textures. And I was actively looking for it. I was like, okay, well, this object is the same shape. I guarantee it's the same model. Like, it will be forgiven. It would be smart usage of time to do that. But every model I saw was a wholly unique piece with custom art drawn on it. And I'm like, this is insane. Like, and Indie being able to take pictures of things and give you like these little bits of lore and like history and stuff. Man, I love that game.
Machine Game's good.
Yeah, Machine Game's good. Yeah, well, they had they had nowhere to go but up after Youngblood.
I don't blame that on them. I blame that on society.
Yeah.
I'll blame it on society.
Yeah,
fucking multiplayer focused sequel.
Yeah.
Ryan Betts gives $5 and says, I like how Zelda Echoes of Wisdom's opening is basically the ending of a typical Zelda game, and the rest of the game jumps off after that. Also see Mario Odyssey. I think a couple of the Mario RPGs have done that. I think like Super Mario RPG on the SNES is like the ending of a typical Mario platformer. Where you defeat Bowser.
Yeah, you get to his castle and you beat him up, and then a fucking sword appears out of the sky.
Yeah, I like how the end of Bowser's Inside Story, it starts with like you defeat the main villain, and then Bowser and Mario and Luigi sort of square off, and then it just sort of cuts to credits. Like, yeah, we know what happens next. They have a fight, and Mario wins.
Yeah.
How do you like a game where you start off and you're not playing as the main character? So, Echoes of Wisdom, you start off as Link. Assassin's Creed 3, you start off as your dad, right?
That's another intro that goes on way too bloody long.
Technically, Metal Gear
Solid 2.
Metal Gear Solid 2, technically.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, I don't know. It doesn't feel like a rug pull to me, but
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, honestly, can't hate any Far Cry opening except 2.
I don't know. I think they got extremely formulaic after 3. Like, 3's opening is so good that they just tried to recreate that with every single one. Like,
I think it's more the case that Far Cry,
the main villain, right?
I think it's more the case that Far Cry 3 as a whole was so good, and then they just tried to recreate Far Cry 3 with every Far Cry game that came after that.
Agreed.
Yeah, it feels like that series needs a complete reinvention.
This town needs an enema. I mean, this franchise needs an enema, as Jack Nicholson's Joker once said. Fox D gives $5 and says, similar to overly long intros are the overly long setup sequences, where you're choosing options for what feels like forever. Looks at RimWorld. You're one of those people who spends ages in the character creator before starting the game, like in Baldur's Gate 3?
Nope.
I'm not. No, I get through pretty
Pasty
quickly.
white man.
Yeah, I used to tokenly micromanage all the face sliders, but then that's all half of them just barely do anything. So now I just skip straight to hairstyle.
You're either playing in first or third person in most cases, and you'll never see that face. So
yes. Even stupider in something like Dark Souls, where the first thing you do is put a face covering helmet on.
Yeah.
I get people that like doing it, and I respect it. Like, Jess meticulously makes her characters in every game she does, and I get it. I respect it. It's just not for me.
They should, if we want to make new law, if your game is a character creator, you have to release it for free a little bit before the game comes out. So that if people want to spend a bunch of time on it, make your
Dragon's Dogma 2 do something like that.
Dragon's Dogma 2 did that. I think so. Yeah, I think like Dragon Age Veilguard might have just released like a character creator thing like that. Yeah.
I think one of the Dragon Ages did that. Or they did the thing where you like fill in the questionnaire establishing what choices you made through previous games.
Oh, gotcha.
I think Inquisition had something like that.
Yeah, that's always tough when it's like, the previous games weren't for the same hardware. So like, how do you get those choices across? Yeah.
Gives $5 and says Final Fantasy VI intro mentioned. Yes. Is that the first? that the first iconic Final Fantasy music besides the thing that goes?
So, yeah, I think so.
When was the first?
The battle themes earlier on, but
wasn't the battle win the winning? That's the most iconic Final Fantasy thing, in my opinion.
Fair enough.
it's real good.
Onyxia gives $5. Says, I gotta say, I know it's already something that's established in film, but the opening of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle slaps. It slaps like a leather bullwhip against a swingable hook.
The fucking sounds of the bullwhip are so good. As I'm walking, will just be like, whoosh, because it's so meaty and thick. I love
playing that and the Arkham games at the same time, and I like that in both games your punches sound like fucking bombs being detonated.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah, that's just Indiana Jones in a nutshell, isn't it? If you can't enjoy punching a Nazi, we've gone wrong somewhere.
Yeah. Exactly. There's the moments where the bigger dudes, right? You know, the big enemies, they like do this move where they put their fists together and like slam down on you. And I swear down, when one hit me in the head, I felt like it blew my eardrums out. It was so it's loud. It was insane.
I think if any of the other cold opens from Indiana Jones would work as like a level, because the second one opens with a fist fight at Club Obi-Wan.
Last Crusade has that thing where you have to go over a train.
Yeah, and there's like the snakes and shit. Looks like a circus train or whatever. Yeah.
They're all really good. And I also think in ignoring Crystal Skull, but the latest one, whatever that's fucking called.
Dial of Destiny.
The one that nobody saw.
I kind of liked it, and the opening is pretty neato. Like takes place afterwards on a train, and there's an escape sequence.
The Crystal Skull opening isn't bad either. In the warehouse from the end of Raiders.
Yeah.
When they made when Spielberg and Lucas made the first indie film, Raiders, they were consciously trying to imitate the James Bond formula, which, of course, is also characterized by cold opens.
Yeah,
that's true. It works.
I mean, that's why they cast Sean Connery as his dad, despite Sean Connery only being like 12 years older than Harrison Ford, because they wanted to like have a sort of an analogous passing of the torch from James Bond to Indiana Jones.
In the final, what they thought would be the final movie.
Pure 87 gives 20 Danish kroner and says, so many good indie games, or indie game. Notch.
Notch.
Yep.
Did you play any of the other Indiana Jones games? Like the older ones, the point ones?
Fate of Atlantis, really fucking good. That's about the only really good Indiana Jones video game. Besides Last Crusade, the adventure game, which is
like
based
Lego.
on Last Crusade, obviously.
Oh, the Lego games aren't bad. Yeah.
Lego Indiana Jones is pretty good.
Well, it's just Lego. It's just the Lego formula. It's not really if you like Indiana Jones. It's if you like Lego.
Yeah.
No, I think Lego games are so consistent. I think they're good.
Did you see that footage of the canceled Lego Bond thing?
No.
Yeah, there was like a Lego Bond. I don't know if it was a standalone game or if it was going to be a part of Lego Dimensions. But footage came out like, man, Bond would be a good series to do a bunch of Lego with. See, there, Eric's already got it. Eric, you are fucking, I don't know. I just thought about it. I didn't even write that down.
Oh my god.
BS Marsh gives $5 and says, happy birthday, Jermate. Here's to many more.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, dude.
How many more? Yeah. How many more do you think?
One.
Oh, at least.
At this pace, one.
That's American healthcare for you. Name's not Fitz. Member for 4 months in Tip Jar. Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, happy birthday, Jermate. Don't forget to give Ludo hugs.
I mean, I would if I could. I FaceTimed her on my birthday.
Digital hugs. You need to get a hugging robot that you can like.
I know.
Ludo.
We'll just get her here. We're in the process of trying to get her here. It's going to be great. I miss her so much. Bless her heart.
Aww. And then BS Marsh gives $2 and says he was found in Altoona, PA with a matching fake ID, meaning the assassin of the healthcare CEO, I suppose. Oh, well. He's even wearing like an Assassin's Creed outfit. There.
What? Those aren't the same person.
No, the guy on the right's the guy who got killed. Eric, why are we showing the picture of this guy?
Oh, the guy. Oh, that's the guy who got killed. I see.
Ivar Duck gives 50 Norwegian kroner and says, I like Kingdom Hearts 2's opening, a tutorial section disguised as world building, story summary, setup, and character reintroduction. Never played that, but I'll take your word for it.
the opening
I
to a
hate
Kingdom Hearts
Oh, dear.
2.
Marts 2
It's
too.
really bad.
Because you're like, I want to be Sora. Why am I this dumb boy named Roxas? Like,
It's
why
the
do
complete opposite of how good the opening to Metal Gear Solid 2 is, which is
Yeah.
the subversion of who you're playing and then going into a new character and then going from that. This is, I know Sora exists. Why am I playing as Roxas? And then just like having to play as him. That's another one of, for me, an opening of a game where I love Kingdom Hearts 2. More than Kingdom Hearts 1, in my opinion, but the opening is so long and so dry that it makes me not want to replay it. And that's a shame. But each their own.
The Brain Sturgeon gives €2. Says, can we start a reunite Jamaican Ludo funding goal? Well, that's basically all the funding goals at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure once the actual process actually starts, somewhere there will be. It's fucking expensive to get Ludo here. Really expensive.
Not if you smuggle.
More expensive than I thought.
Not if you do a little smuggle.
This is true. Just put her in your arm bag.
Yeah.
Well, they got handbags. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
Sorry, arm bag.
Yeah.
Arm bags, American arm bags. Yeah,
Yes.
there'll be a goal of some sort somewhere when the process starts. So yes, thank you though. Appreciate you.
Rabid Lime gives $5. It says, thank goodness you're here. Irresponsibly British intro. Yes, I appreciated how the opening cinematic has the Marrow song playing over the intro. I knew I was in safe hands when I heard that.
Oh yeah.
The Marrow song.
Yes, that's the song that goes, oh, what a beauty. I've never seen one as big as that before. Oh, what a beauty. It must be 3 foot wide or even more. It's such a lovely colour, so nice and round and fat. I've never seen a marrow quite as big as that. See, on the surface, they're singing about a vegetable, but if you pay attention to the subtext, they could also be talking about something else.
Yeah, fat donks, right?
Yes,
Yep.
that is the
Big
essence
song.
of British vaudeville comedy.
That's
But
great.
it didn't take long again for us to transport into the British
Yeah, that was
Twilight
partly
Zone.
my
Yes.
fault. That was partly my fault.
The Brit
Yeah.
zone. Yes,
Yeah.
thank goodness you're here's fault. The game is thoroughly in the British dimension. A superb owner gives $5 and says, yeah, did your Quest 3 come in? And if so, is it green? And if so, does that count as a hat? It is neither green nor is it a hat. It's a headband with a visor.
It was crazy how quickly it came. It came during our Monday afternoon meeting last week, which was 3 hours after you ordered it, if that.
Well, I think it's because I was ordering on Cyber Monday, and there was a big sale on.
Oh, gotcha.
I also love how quickly you pivoted from doing Batman to Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I spent like the whole of last week going through Batman, and then suddenly all these rave reviews for Indiana Jones come out, and I'm like, well, guess I'm just going to have to power through that in my weekend.
Well, because like Batman's going to be a little bit old, even if you do it next year, whereas
get
it while it's fresh.
I know. So I'll go. My last review of the year is going to be Indiana Jones, it seems. But I still want the company to pay me back for buying the Quest 3.
Well, yeah, first review.
I'll just do Arkham Shadow later.
There you go.
Alex Armstrong gives $2. It says most bombastic opening is Mario Galaxy to this day. I don't know. I was thinking of when you were talking about games that just start with the end of Mario games. Mario Odyssey starts with the end of a Mario game in that it just cuts straight to the confrontation with Bowser, which was refreshing.
Yeah. I like this one because it finally shows that Bowser is a dictator who's bombing an innocent kingdom.
So he can get laid.
He just needs to get laid. I don't even know if he wants if he wants sex. He does. I don't even think Bowser knows what sex.
When was the context of Bowser being horny for Peach? Like when did that start?
Well, just the fact that Peach is a hot lady, I think, probably helps.
Yeah. When did he want to first marry her? Was it when Bowser Jr. came about?
Yeah, I always assumed,
I mean, I kind of suspect, that initially it was one of those Prince of Persia setups. The evil villain wants to marry the princess so that they can take over the kingdom as like the Grand Vizier.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought he was just stealing her to spite Mario. Like, I hate Mario. He's a dick.
Well, Bowser is clearly trying to establish Lebensraum. He wants to flood the Mushroom Kingdom with his own citizens so that he can annex it and rule over 2 kingdoms.
Yeah.
And if you can marry the princess, then that's like more legit on the paperwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It checks out.
Anyway, Jesse Lost in Thought Menace gives $5, and it's their first super chat, so be nice.
Hey, Jesse.
And says, even though it's overlooked, I feel that the Last Guardians intro is great. All of Team Ico's games start off beautifully, but that game sticks with me. There's a lot about that game I've forgotten. I don't really remember how it starts.
You're down in that little hole, and you got to unchain your man.
I think
it's the weakest of the 3 Team Eco games, but it still does. It has so many big swings that it connects on enough of them to make it like a must play in my mind.
It's having the context of the studio can also, for me, allow me to forgive a lot of slower openings because I understand what I'm in store for. Like with a Team Ico game, I'm like, I know what's coming. So if this is a slower opening, I'm gonna have more patience for that.
Yeah, or even like Kojima's bullshit, because like for as much as Kojima does his "I'm a director" bullshit, he's also like one of the most playful game designers, and so you get these areas where there's like pure play.
Wouldn't be upset with a 10-minute cutscene in a Kojima game at the beginning, but
if it's happening in Mario, you're like, well, just give me to the Mario.
What's happening? Yeah,
Mario.
Yeah.
Context.
When you said Kojima's bullshit, I imagined a little registered trademark logo appearing after bullshit.
Jeff Keighley is going to reveal Kojima's bullshit this Thursday at the Game Awards.
There you go.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I forgot that was coming up. Oh, wow. Let's see how well my predictions fan out.
Awards, viewer choice. The viewer choice award is down to, which is not the game of the year, thing, but the viewer choice one just got down to the final 5 games, and it was Black Myth Wukong, Zenless Zone Zero, Genshin, Wuthering Waves, and Shadow of the Erdtree. And I'm like, so it's 4 Chinese games, and 3 of which I believe had things where in the game they were like, if you vote, you get free currency in the game.
That should be illegal. That should be illegal.
Like, it's not the real award, but like, why is this even an award?
Dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Yeah.
That makes me feel ill.
Yeah. Well, I guess until we expose the holes in these things, that's how laws get made.
Yeah.
When people just find the holes to exploit. Phil Willis gives $2.99, $8, and says Uncharted 2 starts with a literal cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Great openings. Amazing openings.
I kind of preferred Uncharted 3 because it was such a really badly researched depiction of contemporary Britain. Complete with old-style red phone boxes.
I do really like the reveal of I can't remember his name, but it's like he starts off as one of the woman's henchmen, one of the villain's henchmen, and he shoots you. But then it turns out that he's actually a well-spoken British man, but just looks like a bold henchman man, and that's a great intro to that character.
And he's your friend, and he remains your friend for the rest of the game. And they're like, there's a callback to him in the next game where Drake like tries to fob off his brother's quest to him. What was his name? Charlie Croker. Was that his name?
I think so.
Very
it rings a bell.
British name.
Yeah. Well, as I say, it was a very sort of very under-researched, stereotypical depiction of Britain at the start of that game.
I had this with Indiana Jones. I had this really weird moment where I was just like, "Oh, this kind of feels very Uncharted-like," and then I was like, "Wait, no, Uncharted feels very Indiana Jones-like."
Yeah,
it's like
a
weird. Indiana Jones to Tomb Raider to Uncharted is this weird now like cyclical thing of everything inspiring each other.
I love it.
Beige Mastic is £199. It says Witcher 3 with Geralt in the bath is pretty iconic. Maybe for you. Maybe you had the hots for Geralt. You ever think of that?
I want to see that man all sudded up.
Maybe you got sway toes fetish.
I'm sure there's plenty of Geralt nudity throughout the game if you go for all the sex scenes.
Yay.
Onyxia gives $5 and says, has anyone brought up the opening of Disco Elysium? Because I remember really liking how it eases you into everything the game has to offer. Another great example of unfolding, I think. Where it literally starts with you trapped inside your own head, and then you're trapped in a room, and then you're trapped in a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
an amazing game. I made a video and used it as a framing device to talk about how games lie to you and narrative through lines. And I think a lot of people got the impression that I don't like Disco Elysium. I think it's one of the best written games I've ever played. It's really, really good.
But why do you hate Disco Elysium?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Whoop Whoop gives $10 and says, I'll die on the hill that while leaning heavily on the base of Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, including its opening, holds up as a great sequel that represents the pinnacle of the series' core mechanics. I disagree. I still think Far Cry 3 is better.
Finished Far Cry 3, couldn't even get halfway through 4.
Really?
Yeah, I just got bored. I'm not a big fan of the formula, like the Ubisoft tower, climb tower, go up the thing, unlock the stuff, fuck off.
Yeah.
I think the problem with Far Cry 4 for me, at least story-wise, was that it starts with Pagan Min and it ends with Pagan Min, and then nothing that happens in between feels like it mattered.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember a lot of the stuff that happens in between Far Cry 3, to be honest.
There's a lot of hang gliding.
There's a lot of hang gliding. Yeah.
It's because a lot of it is just like go create a revolution or kill everyone in a camp, climb a tower, and then walk between that and another tower and do that until you get to a story beat. And it felt fresh in 3 because it was new and different. But they just keep doing it, and it's just I know what I'm getting. And some people might like those games because they know what they're getting. But for me, it's too formulaic for me.
Yeah.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says Star Wars Force Unleashed intro had a badass Vader. Is that the one where you run around like murdering the shit out of Wookiees for 10 minutes?
Yes, that is the opening. Yeah, as Vader.
I don't remember.
Yeah. Vader.
Yeah, and Bullrog gives $5 and says, do you think Indian Jones, open square brackets, sick, close square brackets, being good and coming out so late in the year is another example of publishers suppressing non-live services games again? I was on record expecting it to suck just from the fact that it came out in mid-December, because that's usually the publisher suppression period when publishers want things to come out quietly because they suspect it kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least it has been the last few years.
Yeah. This is probably delayed not for some conspiracy theory non-line service game thing. All publishers want their games to do as good as possible because that's how they make a fuck ton of money. It was delayed and this just made sense, schedule wise or release schedule wise, or they strategically did it because they knew that no big games were coming out at this point, so they were like, let's release it here and it will be a sleeper and people will get mad hype about it. It was strategic, I'm sure, just not for the conspiracy theory.
I mean, it's also that Xbox just has a shit ton of first party games now. Like September had that Starfield expansion, whatever that was.
Is it fair to say that Xbox has those when they're all coming out on Steam at the same time as well?
Oh no, I meant less as exclusives and more of like, if you look at their portfolio, they are like, okay, we have our September game in Starfield's expansion, we have our October game in Call of Duty, we have our November game in Flight Sim, and this is our December game. Like, even if Indiana Jones is way more interesting to me than Starfield or
Flight Sim
or Flight or anything, but yeah, I think it's also to sort of spread out Game Pass. They want people to just not pick up and put down Game Pass. They wanted to make it like a year-long thing, and then in February Avowed's going to come out, so like they just want to keep you hooked, and that South of Midnight might come out in March, so yeah.
Fox D gives $2. It says Game Awards pale compared to Steam Replay.
What's Steam Replay? Is that like the Spotify recap thing?
I don't know.
I'm going to try and just go into Steam and look it up.
Yeah, just maybe like what you've done this year?
Maybe.
Well, anyway. Phil Willis gives $2.99 and says Civilization first 50 turns, and then I restart.
Yeah.
Do Civilizations games just start off? Is there like preamble at all, or is it just like
Not really.
Well, you have to pick your character, I guess.
Okay. Can't find anything about Steam Replay.
Isn't there like I remember reading like some people have like had Civilization games running for like years, literal years, and almost all of them turn into hideous fascist dictatorships by the end.
Mm-hmm.
oh no,
Because they can stall. You can like stall each other and get it to a horrible place. There was like a multiplayer match that had been going on for like 10 years or something. It was wild.
And a superb owner gives $5 and says Silent Hill 2 had a creepy and disgusting opening, and it was horrifying to watch James reach his entire arm inside to get that clock hand item.
Yeah.
Not that kind of opening, a superb owner, you enormous wag.
Wagga wagga.
Yeah, like it was interesting how Silent Hill 2 took the whole put your hand down thing where you're not sure what's on the other end of it sequence from the original and just repeated it like 4 or 5 times.
Is that an Indiana Jones thing? Did that start with like Temple of Doom has a put your arm in a gross area?
I think we could all see
a hole and spiders come out.
We could all see pretty fucking clearly that there was a lot of horrible things in that hole in Temple of Doom.
Yeah.
What started that? Damn.
What was the world's first gross hole?
Yeah.
Don't answer that. Don't take that out of context.
Oh, sorry.
Your mum.
No.
Your mum joke here.
No.
There you go. One more last minute super chat from Fox D, who says Flight Sim 2024 deserves a deep dive for why cloud gaming is stupid and the tech never catches up with the scope of the design. That seems a bit niche to me.
Yeah.
Who the fuck's playing Microsoft? Who the fuck plays Microsoft Flight Sim for fun? Retired pilots?
Isn't it like a dad game?
It's like classic dad game, but even so.
Also, of course, there's clouds up there. You're up in the sky. There's got to be clouds. Not every day.
That's the genre, cloud gaming.
Cloud gaming?
Nah. Well, anyway, that's the end of the super chats. Thank you very much for listening to this lovely podcast.
You didn't say stroke watching.
What?
You always say thank you so much for listening, stroke watching.
Do I? Man.
Yeah, you do. Because I always, in my mind, I make a joke about stroking. But I never make it out loud because my jokes are top tier.
I've got quite a few verbal tics, it turns out. Such as ending sentences with the phrase, it turns out, is another one.
It turns out when you have to speak extemporaneously for dozens and hundreds of hours a year, you just start saying the same shit over and over. Being a human being is hard.
And, as I was trying to say, I was Yahtzee Crowshaw, and I was joined by Jay and Marty. Don't forget, there's content every day on Second Wind, usually. I, for example, am putting out my next Fully Ramblematic on Wednesday. It will be on the subject of Stalker 2, and it will be the penultimate Fully Ramblematic of the year.
Wow.
I've also got my usual stream, Yahtzee Tries, on Wednesday, and that's about it for me. Also Adventurous Nigh on Saturday, which my character is in. But I don't have to do any work for that, so I always forget it.
And I saw people are still asking, yes, you are doing every Fully Ramblematic video. That is going to be a compilation of all the ones from the end of last year and all of this year. And you are doing Best, Worst, and Blandest again at the start of the new year.
Yes, in fact, it will be coming out on literally New Year's Day, January 1st.
My God. No, January 1st. What? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Oh, I think I just went insane. Sorry. You did great.
I said New Year's Day, January 1st.
I thought you said 31st, and I was like, is that real? I just made up the thing.
No, December 31st and New Year's Eve.
That's
a different thing.
Oh my God.
Incredible. Days, how do they work?
Plug away, both of you.
Oh shit.
Give me some plugs. Plug
Jay,
me.
You got
right
up
in my
Delve.
Plug me in my pluggable holes right now.
Oh my God, Yahtzee is the first gross hole. I have a design delve this week coming out on is AAA UI designed to manipulate you, or a title along that vein, going into the whys and me ranting about some really egregious things that I've found. So Look forward to that. We just had a Dev Heads with Mark Brown from Game Makers Toolkits. You can go watch that.
Did you remember to remind him to play Starstruck Vagabond?
I definitely did.
Good.
Spoken like
was a
someone who
thing-
definitely did remember.
That is definitely something that happened. I'll message him. But yeah, you can check that out. It was a really nice discussion on when to start your game dev journey. So if any of you are thinking about, diving into game dev, that will be a nice one for you to check out. Yeah, we have Adventurers Night on Saturday, and we're probably going to have a quieter weekend release and stream schedule wise because a lot of us are away.
Yes, we will be.
Release-wise should be normal. Just no streams Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, no streams and stuff. Yeah.
Yes, we're all going on a little holiday to that well-known holiday destination, Baltimore.
Everybody
When you
loves
walk
Baltimore.
through the garden, better watch your back. That was the Wires theme song. What else we got? This evening, 6 p.m. normal time, Hidden Gems crew. Casey's going to be playing Rivals of Aether 2, which is a newish platform fighter. And Casey loves platform fighters, as is evidenced by his 20,000 hours in Smash. So there you go.
He's crazy for Smash, that boy.
He is. He's a real smasher. Tomorrow, we got the Rewind at noon. We're going to be chatting about some of our favorite recos for Christmas holiday movies, as well as new stuff we've been watching. And then because of said travel, tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central, Jess and Jack are going to be back with Liza P tomorrow because Jack will be traveling on Thursday. So Liza P tomorrow, as well as Rewind tomorrow. Yahtzee Tries and Firelink on Wednesday, and Thursday evening, no Metroid because the Game Awards are Thursday, and so we're going to be doing our normal live watch along starting probably around 5:30 Central or so on Thursday. So come hang out and see which of all of your favorite games win.
One last minute super chat from Jules Rowe, who gives €2 to say Ludo money.
Thank
yeah,
you
that'll
so
go
much.
a long way. Thanks, Jules Rowe.
I'll
Look at all those
give
different
that
monies.
€2
Look at all those different
directly
monies.
to her.
That will buy you like one bone, half a bone for Ludo.
If that.
Yeah.
Are
Expensive
bones expensive?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Get one of them fancy dog treat bones full of lovely marrow.
I should start selling my bones because I got a bunch of them I probably don't use.
I can't wait to do another podcast with Floppy Marty, who has nothing but a skull and a skin bag.
Yes.
That was my nickname.
Skin bag. Yeah, fair
No,
enough.
Floppy
All
Marty.
right.
Oh.
We'll see you all soon then.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
Have a good rest of your
guys.
days.